The only time that I was hospitalized for drinking, which was I actually was on Antabuse. And this just kind of, I want to share the story real quick, shows the insanity of the drinking, whether you
Naltrexone?
call it no, it was Antabuse. And if you drink on it, then you get really sick. Let me just like have a little sip of champagne. Let's just see what happens. And nothing really happened. And so I ended up getting just a little flushed in my face. And I was like, I think I want to go to the rave thing. Maybe I'll just eat some ecstasy and I won't drink. And so
Dang.
I went and I ate the ecstasy, and it was really dark. As I start getting messed up on the ecstasy, I was like, now I want to drink. And so
Yeah.
drink, and then my face just started getting really, really, really red. I was like, nobody can see me. Like when I went in the bathroom, I'm like, whoa, I'm red. But that kept going. And then I ended up getting cocaine. And then we were at the 6 a.m. bar. And then I was drinking all the next day. Still not sick, just very red until the following day. At like 6 p.m., I start puking violently, and I could not stop puking. I was really, really sick. And then on January 2nd, with no sleep, couldn't keep down water or anything, I called my mom and I was like, I think I need to go to the hospital for detox.
This is Rock Bottom with Ryan. No sugarcoating, no filters. The pain, the chaos, the truth. No bullshit. Just recovery.
Sober Strong apparel isn't just lifestyle wear, it's battle gear. Heavyweight tees, hoodies, and gear for the ones who draw a hard line. Clean, sober, no compromise. We rep sobriety like a badge of honor, and every piece you throw on says you're part of the crew that doesn't back down. Every order fuels recovery, with 10% donated to treatment facilities, because we don't just talk about it, we stand on it.
All right, welcome to Rock Bottom with Ryan. I'm here with Emily Killeen, and we're here with another episode of Rock Bottom with Ryan. Emily, would you like to introduce yourself? Tell us where you're from.
I would
A little
love
bit
to.
about-
Thanks for having me on, Ryan. So I am from the Madison, Wisconsin area, and that is where I'm living now. But I just got back here. I have been out and about for the last 12 years. I was in San Diego and then also in Sedona and different parts of Arizona. But now I'm in Madison, Wisconsin.
In Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I've met a lot of people on the show from the Midwest area, Chicago, Canada, Minnesota, stuff. So awesome. So this show is called Rock Bottom with Ryan because we kind of like to hear a little bit about, your history with any kind of use, whether it be alcohol, drugs, and kind of go into maybe not just like what it was like during the dark times, but kind of what led up to it. Like talking maybe a little bit about your childhood, what that was like, and maybe when you started your use, and then how it like progressed into where you thought maybe it became a problem. And then kind of what it was like when you hit that moment where you decided it was time to quit, and kind of what you're doing now in recovery. So kind of if you can give me just a little play by play, and I might ask you some questions in between. So
I would
whatever you're comfortable with sharing.
absolutely. Well, I'm an open book, and I've done this quite a few times before. I've been in recovery for 20 years, actually, and have this time around almost 7 years of continuous sobriety. So whoop, whoop. It took a long time
What
to get to where I am, and I would like to say I had quite a few rock bottoms. So I'll
same.
just go ahead and start sharing, and starting with childhood. When I first started getting sober, I was like, my childhood was fine. I didn't get abused or anything like that. But when you look back at it, it's like, okay, that wasn't actually normal. I just thought it was normal. So I grew up in a small Midwest town outside of Madison where there's bars everywhere. I actually grew up right next door to a bowling alley, and my parents frequented that bowling alley and the other fine establishments around our town. And so I would go there all the time. So I grew up in bars. I think when they brought me home from the hospital, I was told I went straight to a bar. And so that's what I grew up with. That's what I knew the parents did to have fun, is to drink and to go to bars. But I
Isn't
grew
that
up
most bars per capita?
something like that in
Yeah,
Wisconsin.
because I went to Chicago and drove over to Milwaukee for like a day when I was on a vacation, and I just went and I was like, it's a bar house, and I was just like, Jesus.
It's
It's the
something
alcoholic dream.
I think like the 50 drunkest cities in the country, I think like more than half of them are in Wisconsin. So it's
Nice.
definitely part of the culture, but I will say sobriety and the sober movement is catching on here. So I'm really happy to be
Good.
back and start sharing some of that. But, and
Awesome.
also my parents went camping all the time. Between living in a small town, my mom babysitting, the neighbor lady babysat, there was kids everywhere. We could always go to the park and the pool and go climb in the woods. And then when we went camping, it was just a free for all because we could do whatever we wanted and the parents were drinking. So from my perspective, I had a lot of freedom and I had a lot of fun and I had a lot of friends. And I was in T-ball and I was in dance. So, to me, my childhood seemed really fun. But looking back, my example of what parents do for fun was drinking. And there was domestic disputes. There was a lot of things that happened, with my parents growing up. My mom is actually 26 years sober now, which is amazing. And I just
That is
lost
amazing.
my dad a year and a half ago, and he did die sober, but he struggled with alcohol all of his life as well. And my brother, so I had one brother, he passed away from a drunk driving accident that happened when I was 21.
Sorry for your losses.
Thank
That's
you. Yeah,
I
really,
lost
really,
my sister to fentanyl overdose, and my mom lost her sister to a drunk driving accident, so I can
yeah, it's really,
empathize where you're coming from.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that.
Thank you. I mean, it's been almost 20 years for my brother, but anyway, so that's what I grew up with. And so my story of how I started drinking is kind of interesting. I've never heard this before. So I'm in health class and it is I'm in middle school, probably 7th grade or something like that. And they're teaching us about drugs and alcohol and they give us the drunk goggles to put on. And I've shared this in a couple of podcasts. So some of you may have heard me share this story, but they put on the drunk goggles and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is why they drink." I didn't know why they drank because they had let me have sips of it. And I'm like, "Ew, this is really gross." But now I realize it makes you feel silly. So, not knowing how alcohol affects you or how long it lasts, I would like, "It's an early release day. Come on, friends, let's go raid the parents' alcohol cabinet at noon." And that didn't go very well. I ended up blacking out my very first time drinking, and I just went balls to the wall, couldn't get enough. My friend told me I was, like, standing on a chair, reaching in the cabinet, took a swig from a bottle, and just, like, puked all over the floor, and she saw
Jeez.
she cleaned it up, and my mom was coming home, so she put me to bed, and obviously, my mom knew that something was not right, and I got in trouble, big trouble. They didn't get rid of that alcohol cabinet. I raided that a few more times until my mom made me pour everything out because they really didn't drink at home. Most of their drinking was at the bar and out socially, from what I remember. So, anyways, I like to say, I mean, I don't love the term alcoholic because I really believe in the power of words, but I do believe I am an alcoholic. And I think I was literally one from day one because I struggled with my drinking from that point on. And in high school, I was a party girl. I was on the dance team and like I managed my grades. I didn't get into drugs or anything in high school. So felt like I was like a normal high school drinker, but really I wasn't. I remember anytime I would get alcohol, which I would get from my older brother, I'd like open up the trunk and my friends would be like, "We don't need all that." And I'd be like, "Yeah, we do." And I would drink all. So I blacked out almost every time that I drank. And it was I thought I was having fun, I'm not gonna lie, like, I wouldn't have kept on that train for a little while, if I wasn't having some fun along the way, but eventually, especially when I turned 18 and got out on my own and didn't have any rules, didn't have any curfew, and I started to get into drugs and the music scene, and that's when things really started to go downhill for me.
Wow. So when you were drinking in high school at that young of an age, and just like it seems like every time you picked up a bottle, you wouldn't know how to like, manage it and keep it, uh, moderated or whatever. So like, what do you think? Do you think you were at some point trying to mask something, trying to numb something? Was there kind of like some kind of pain or were like some kind of social anxiety or anything like that? Or what do you think made you like want to go overboard?
Yeah, I appreciate that question because when I first got into outpatient treatment, that's what they try to figure out. Like, why are you drinking so much? And I'm like, I'm fine. I had a great childhood. But looking back at it, I think it was more social anxiety. And I really cared what people think about me, and I still do. I mean, I have my hair and makeup done, of course, I'm doing a podcast. I'm not gonna say I don't care at all, but I really cared so much. And when I would drink, it took all that away. You know what I mean? Just like took off the pressure of like, I don't give an F, you know?
Yeah.
And so I
Yeah.
think that's what it was. And I had fun, and then as I got into college, as I mentioned, that scene was my social scene. And I was like, this is great. I have freedom. I'm going to concerts. I have no rules. And I loved going to live music. And so I really saw it as more of just like a party social way. But why was it that I had the compulsion to drink more and more and more and couldn't stop? I don't really know. Is it the disease? Is it because I have the gene? Whatever it may be. But I mean, other than, some of the domestic disputes and like my dad getting a DUI. And actually, when I was in middle school, my parents came along to ski club where I'm with all my middle school is such a tender age.
Yeah.
All of my friends are there, and my dad got really drunk and actually fell down the ski hill and got all bloody, and the ambulance he didn't go away in the ambulance, but he was in the ambulance. It was, like, really traumatic and embarrassing. So a lot of things like that happened. I remember him getting a DUI when I was really young, and my best friend's dad was, like, the town sheriff, and I remember, like, the sheriff coming over and my parents kind of, like, being like, "Oh, dad, go inside," and just, like, the shame that
Hmm.
formulated at such a young age around it. And honestly, I think because I knew about alcoholism and I knew that I had a problem from such a young age, the shame actually kind of kept me drinking because I knew that it wasn't
Interesting.
something that I was supposed to be doing. I mean, I
Yeah.
went to Alateen and Al Anon when I was in middle school because of my parents. And then I went to my first AA meeting when I was only 19 years old because I think
Wow.
I had a really good work ethic until I started partying. Towards the end, I mean, I would be on alcohol and cocaine, and I just wouldn't even go into work. I'd be like, I'm going to continue to party. And that was
Same.
all that I
Same.
did for 15 years. It was really 15 years of debauchery. And then, like, thinking that I wanted some sober time, and I would get sober a little bit, and then I would go back into that party lifestyle. And it was pretty dark.
Yeah, that sounds a lot like my story. I don't know if you're the same, but like able to I didn't drink a lot in high school, I'll admit, but in college I drank just because it broke me out of my shell finally. So, but at first I was able to manage like my grades and drink and party, but then as college went on, it like gradually got worse and worse as far as like being able to multitask and balance everything. But how was it for you like in high school and college in your drinking? Were you able to still get good grades and still succeed on the dance team and all that, or that the drinking affect all those things?
Yeah, drinking didn't really affect my high school grades and dance team. I was actually the captain of the dance team, junior and
Okay.
senior year. But I will say this is something embarrassing I've never shared on a podcast. My senior year, I had a dance solo at the dance studio that I went to. So this isn't with high school, but it was during that time. And I was so hungover and I had never done a solo dance. I like forgot the whole thing. And I was out
Jeez.
there just like prancing around on the stage and I
Just
had
improvising?
shame and yeah, it's just improvising. I mean, I don't know if people knew, but I knew, and I had so much shame. I had nightmares about that for like 10 years. Just like, I can't
Yeah,
believe I
caused
did
like
that, you
constant
know?
stage fright for a while after that.
Right. And then,
Jeez.
yeah, with college, I mean, I went to a tech college. I literally blacked out on my way to college one time. And when I came out, I had no idea where my car was because I would just stay up all night and still try to go about my day by going to work and I would go to the gym like that. I would go to school and I did graduate. I mean, my grades were not the greatest. I made it through. I never got a DUI. I don't know how that happened, but I did. I mean, I would have periods of sobriety. So I went to outpatient for the first time, probably around the age of 22. I don't remember how old I was, but that place was called Connections Counseling here in Madison, Wisconsin. And I really started to get a glimpse of what sober life could look like. Of course, I had my mom who was sober, and we would go on sober vacations together. And I was like, okay, I'm going to Florida with my mom. Like, I get this week sober. It's going to be really good. Like, part of me craved that and enjoyed it, but I just didn't know how to let go of my party lifestyle. And I really didn't think I would have fun if I gave up drugs and alcohol, you know? And so that's been a huge part of my recovery as well. I think I always knew in my heart that I would have to let it go. And I knew that there was something in me that wanted to be birthed, or I wouldn't fully step into my true potential until I let it go. But I was like, I'm just not ready to let it go yet.
No, I understand. So that's yeah, I totally emulate. I tell myself like I started drinking, I would say started really drinking at 19, didn't quit drinking till I would say 13 months ago. I had a like, little period of sobriety prior to a relapse, but yeah, I'm only 13 months sober as of a couple days ago. But I've been trying to quit for probably 15 years. I just every time I got a period of sobriety or like got enough like controlled drinking under my belt, I would tell myself I could keep drinking. I'm not an alcoholic, and then it just lying to myself for that long got kind of exhausting. So
It's so exhausting. Well, and congratulations on 13 months. Thank you
thank
for
you.
doing this podcast, with me stepping into coaching. And well, first it was tapping into purpose and passion, I think is really important. And that's
Yeah,
one thing they don't talk about in the 12 steps too much. But when I
yeah.
found out that I found yoga for the first time.
I love yoga. I started that too.
It was a place where I could go where people weren't drinking, but I was still in a community because I liked dancing and music. It kind of gave me that little thing from the music festivals and the concerts, which I found
Yeah.
out I couldn't go to for a while because every time I tried to go and stay sober, one of two things would happen. I would go and I would be miserable. I'd be like in a pity party. This sucks. Why can't I drink? I'm not having any fun. Or I would go and I would say F it and I would end up getting hammered and that would last for like 3 days. Like
It's like
literally,
one or the other.
if I wanted to go to a concert, I'd have to take off work for like 3 days because I never knew what would happen. I pretty much always went on a bender. And what kind
Yeah.
of life is that? You know what I mean? And so I did have to take a step away from all of that, but I can say that I can do those things again now that I don't have the desire to drink. And, some of the types of music that I was listening to when I was really effed up, I don't really love that kind of music anymore. My taste in music has shifted a little bit,
Usually does, it seems like, with a lot of people.
right? But I still have so much fun.
So what kind of no, I'm kind of curious to backtrack just a little bit. Like what kind of music were you getting into and how did the music scene play a role in like getting you into drugs on top of drinking and how much did the drug use increase as well with the drinking?
Well, I would say the drugs and the music scene kind of came in at the same time. And I was into like I like to go see Fish. They're a jam band. And then Sound Tribe Sector 9, they're electronic. And I mean, it was just what everybody did. And I didn't
Surrounding
feel like
people.
I was different. And the thing about it, when you go to a music festival, like there are no rules. Like you can wake up, roll out of your tent, and start drinking a beer at 7:30 in the morning and nobody bats an eye. And
Yeah,
so for those of us that are alcoholics and
it's
addicts, it's like,
perfect.
yeah, this is the place, you
Oh yeah.
know? You can get drunk
Yeah.
for 5 days in a row, hardly sleep at all, do a bunch of drugs, and it's acceptable,
Yeah.
but it's not sustainable, you know?
Yeah.
And
I've been
so
to some music festivals and usually country ones, but either way, it's like you wake up in an RV, immediately start playing beer pong first thing in the morning in your 30s and stuff. And I'm like, man, this is awesome. And nobody judges you.
right.
So
But
was it
remember, getting a ride home in an RV one time from Minnesota and puking the whole way home. I just told a story recently of the only time that I was hospitalized for drinking, I actually was on Antabuse. And this just kind of, I want to share the story real quick. Shows the insanity of the drinking, whether you
naltrexone?
call it no, it was Antabuse, which
Antabuse.
is one that you take and if you drink on it, then you get really sick. And so I
Okay.
was so committed to my sobriety. Like I had just become a yoga teacher. I was like, I want to be sober. So I would take that pill every morning. And then I knew I couldn't drink. And so it was New Year's Eve. I had no plans on going out. I was working at a really nice restaurant on the Capitol Square. And it's a good money night. So I was like, I'm going to go to work. My boyfriend was going to party. I took my little pill. I went to work and he surprised me for midnight toast before he went to the little rave thing he was going to, which was super sweet. And I was like, well, let me just like have a little sip of champagne. Like, let's just see what happens. And nothing really happened. And so I ended up getting just a little flushed in my face. And I was like, I think I want to go to the rave thing. Like, maybe I'll just eat some ecstasy and I won't drink. And so I
Dang.
went and I ate the ecstasy, and it was really dark. And, as I start getting messed up on the ecstasy, I was like, now I want to drink. And so I
Yeah.
had a drink. And then my face just started getting really, really, really red, actually. But it was so dark. I was like, nobody can see me. Like when I went in the bathroom, I'm like, whoa, I'm red. But that kept going. And then I ended up getting cocaine. And then we were at the 6 a.m. bar. And then I was drinking all the next day, still not sick, just very red until the following day. At like 6 p.m., I start puking violently and I could not stop puking. I was really, really sick. And then on January 2nd, with no sleep, couldn't keep down water or anything, I called my mom and I was like, I think I need to go to the hospital for detox to like get some fluids running through me. And,
Yeah.
that's the
That's
insanity of
scary. Yeah, like nothing. I mean, that's what happened to me when I had relapsed. I was taking naltrexone, which I know it doesn't, I don't think it makes you sick the same way Antabuse does, but it also like makes it so that you don't feel like the effects of alcohol, like the good effects. It just makes you depressed. And I still, even while taking naltrexone, I just had committed to relapsing so hard that I just kept taking naltrexone in the midst of like a month and a half relapse. And I was just like, why am I so freaking depressed? Like no matter how much I drink, the less I enjoy it. So, I mean, that just shows how insane it really is, because nothing was going to stop me. And here I am taking these anti-drinking pills while drinking, basically taking it with wine. So it's like, what am I thinking?
and sometimes because I coach women, yeah, and sometimes I'll be like, I can't believe it. And then I'm like, Emily, think about what you did. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's the insanity of what alcohol does to the brain. That's completely wild, and just all of the things that I did. I mean, I've gotten on planes in a blackout and came out of the blackout on the plane flying to San Francisco. I mean, the shit that I did while I was drunk and that I got away with. I mean, I'm grateful to be alive, honestly. People tell me I should write a book all the time because I did some wild, wild things. And then I was out in San Diego. I moved to San Diego and I'm teaching yoga on Sunset Cliffs. I'm this yoga teacher and doing this holistic life, but I was still going on major benders. And when I was in San Diego, I actually got into meth, which is not something I'm proud of, but like, look at me. Like, I don't look like someone that did
I would
meth.
have never guessed. Yeah.
No, to get a little bit.
I'd snorted it before too. That was the only time I'd done it because I thought it was cocaine and I snorted it. And then I was like, why does it burn so bad? And
Yeah.
next thing you know, I'm awake for 3 days, miserable because I didn't know what I was doing.
Staying up for 5 days in a row on the daily, like that 5-month period, I have no idea what happened. Like I completely lost myself and I got into inpatient again. That was my third time, or outpatient. And I was able to get off of that gratefully. But
Good.
it was a really, really dark time. And so
But
yeah,
yeah, no, meth is
that's
scary.
not me anymore.
Good. Very good. So like I would assume it was tough to get sober because it sounds like a lot of being in the music scene, which I find fascinating. And it's definitely a fast ride being in the music scene. I know from friends that are in it. It's nonstop drugs, drinking, all that, depending on who you're with. But all your friends were probably into the same stuff. So was it hard to kind of, when you like evolved into like things like yoga, break out of those friend groups, or were you still kind of connected to all of them when you were trying to get
Well,
sober?
when I left Wisconsin, I left a big part of my party group. But then when I got to San Diego, I still found people that like to party the way that I did. But some of them also did yoga. So they kind of intermixed. I really didn't have to cut out too many of my friends, to be honest, even all my friends from Wisconsin that were my party people, because they saw me struggle with addiction for so long. And so when I was committed to my sobriety, they were actually pretty supportive because they saw how bad I got. But when I'd have moments where I'm like, I'm partying tonight, they would be like, okay, and then I'll have some fun.
Yeah.
And so it was an evolution of that. And because I had been in recovery, so mine isn't, there's no like hard stop moment because there were so many moments because I, went to my first AA meeting when I was only 19 and really started to make sober friends when I was in my early 20s. Those people are still my friends today. And I just continued to cultivate more sober friends throughout. But the hardest thing is like, I know I can't go to the music festival. So like, what else can I do for fun? And so I started tapping into yoga retreats. And eventually I found ecstatic dance, which is a huge part of my recovery because that is
Awesome.
music and dancing without alcohol. And so
That's
There's a
cool.
lot of ecstatic dance communities that are happening all over the country. And when I was in Sedona, I really fell in love with that. So I really kind of started to create my own way. And then I started to do events. And so now I host events that have all of these holistic things and these fun things that I've incorporated into my own recovery. I like to call my recovery a personal development journey,
Gotcha.
because I don't actually go to AA anymore. I will bop in every once in a while if I go with my mom or something like that. But it's more of a wellness forward recovery program. And I love going to personal development workshops. And so I found community there. I love the ecstatic dance. And then I love to do these events that I've been putting on that have, dancing. We literally last weekend played musical chairs to gangster rap, and people had so much
Old
fun
gangster raps my music.
doing relay races, but then I incorporate the yoga and the breathing and the connection. And so, one thing that is common, I think, through all different forms of recovery, whether it's 12 step or whatever, is the community and the connection, which I think is so important. And then for me, the wellness part, because I always say when we feel good, then we make better decisions for ourselves. So for me, it's really important to make sure I'm eating healthy and getting good sleep and staying connected. One thing, have you heard of the HALT method? Hungry, angry, lonely, tired?
I haven't, no.
So
Now I
HALT,
do.
I like to say HALT plus B, and this is something that I live by. So oftentimes when we feel like we want to drink, we're just one of these things. We're hungry, angry, lonely, tired, or bored. So if you get that trigger of like, a drink sounds really good right now, and I use this with my clients, I ask them, and a lot of times they're tired and like, go to bed or get a latte if it's in the afternoon. Or they're hungry. I'm like, it's probably time for a meal. And once you eat, you're like, oh, I feel better. So if you can just
Yeah, I
fill
don't
the
need it.
void, and that's a
Yeah,
really good one. Yeah, HALT
that
plus.
is good.
Yeah.
I always just resort to the one thing I read in the big book. I am active in AA or whatever, which I understand it's not for everybody, but I just think you drink, you die. So I just tell myself that every time I have some kind of horrible day, and I'm just kind of like, well, it's not an option anymore because I know it's going to happen. It's not going to be just one. I'm going to be lost. I'll disappear for 3 months and end up in the hospital or jail again. So,
Totally. Well,
but I like the Halt method. That's a new one, so I'll
yeah,
have
well,
to
I
write that.
love that you said, it's not an option, and so I like to say it's not an option, and it's not the solution. So if you're ever, like, having a bad day and you're like, "I wanna drink," it's not the solution because we know that having that drink might help for a little bit of time, but then we're just hungover and the problem's still there the next day. But it's interesting that you say, "If you drink, you'll die," because that's one thing that I didn't like about AA. I'm like, "Don't tell me I'm gonna die, I'm fine."
I know, I know.
I'm
And I
also
didn't believe that at first, but then I
yeah,
started noticing people coming to the meetings and disappearing, and then we don't hear from them again. I'm like, oh crap, this is kind of real.
it is real. It is.
Yeah,
And there's times that I literally could have died, but, here I am.
same.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was in the hospital so many times where they
were
told
you?
me another month of this, you would have killed yourself. And I'm like, okay, well, and then I'll feel better for a few weeks after not drinking as much. And I'll be like, oh, I can go back to it. I'm fine. They said my liver's good now, so might as well go back to it. But
So
before you discovered the halt method and like took that extra seriously, like did you ever have periods of sobriety and then relapse? Do you remember like why you relapsed to what you're telling yourself in your head, justifying it?
but yeah, I had 100 periods of sobriety and
Okay.
100 relapses.
Let's hear about a notable one.
I would say that I was on a 2-week streak for a really long time. I'd get 2 weeks, and then I would relapse, and then I'd get 2 weeks, and then I'd relapse, and sometimes I'd get a couple months. I did get a year and a half and then relapsed after that, but I would say that the notable one that I'll share is towards the end. So I had met somebody who decided to get sober, and I ended up marrying with me. I ended up marrying him. So we were sober together. We got married, and there were some things happening in our life that were a little bit stressful. We bought this off-grid property and we built this wedding venue and retreat facility, and we're rebels. So we didn't get any permits, and we got in a bunch of trouble with the county. So after we opened this huge business, the county was like, nope, you have to close. And it was really stressful. And we ended up getting in a battle with the county. But, anyways, I started romanticizing about drinking. And what I was thinking is, I deserve to drink. I'm working so hard. I deserve to drink. And what happened when I relapsed that time, and it was one night, it was so bad. And I'm not even gonna get into the story of everything that happened, but what happened that night is nothing that I deserve. I had started to cultivate this amazing sober life, and creating these beautiful things, doing retreats, creating community. And every time I drink, it's debauchery. And so that was the last time I drank. I haven't had a drink in almost 7 years. And I had the spiritual awakening. I literally don't have the desire to drink anymore, but it took that long to finally figure it out. And
Wow.
yeah, just that deserving, I deserve to drink. I deserve. It's like, no, we don't deserve to do that to ourselves. Like
Yeah, we're
part of
just
that is good for
justifying.
us.
Yeah, we're lying to ourselves, justifying it. I mean, I told myself when I relapsed, I only had 90 days, but 90 days for me at that time was like a century, just because I had only gone like 2 weeks here, 30 days one time, but it was hell. This
Mhm.
time I went 90 days and I was actively going to meetings. So I told myself, like, oh, I think I have it figured out. I'm just going to have a couple, and I had these two 24-ounce cans and like this little juice box of wine that I had bought to have as like a little security blanket to keep with me while I went to a wedding a few weeks prior. And I just kept it with me. And then finally, I just premeditated it for like 2 weeks. And then one time I was at a meeting and I just told myself, you know what? After this meeting, my anxiety's through the roof. I'm just going to drink one. And I drank all of it and went to the store, bought another box. And yeah, it was just balls to the wall, like no stopping me. I think I turned my phone on silent for a month and a half until finally back in the hospital. And then when I was in the hospital, I was like, you know what? I'm going to try it different this time. I will go to rehab. And I went to rehab for 45.
You did. Yeah. So were you holding down a job during that time? I'm just so curious.
No, thankfully I was trading stocks full time, which I still do
Okay.
now. So like I wasn't doing a good job at it. I look
Right.
at the trades I was making during my bender. They
Mhm.
didn't make any sense and I lost everything I had earned for a while. And so when I was managed drinking, which I would control my drinking by having, this might sound OCD, but I'd go on a 5 mile run in the morning. I would have 3 drinks right after that. And then I wouldn't drink again until nighttime, which I would limit myself to 5 to 6 drinks at night. And that would be my routine for like 5 years. And I kept it that way. And then every now and again on a weekend, I might go out a little harder just for one night. But like that was my like specific routine, having those 3 drinks after my run at like 7 a.m. because it would just kind of warm my body for the day. And then no drinking until like 6 p.m., which would be enough to make me fall asleep. But once I started going overboard, more weekends, I got into a relationship that she wanted to party a lot more. So I started to want to party more. And, just like you surround yourselves with different people and you start to just go along with it. And it got out of hand again. And then I, stopped trading during that relapse. The trades I would make at like 5 a.m. and pre-market hours or whatever, they didn't make any sense because I was still blacked out. So,
Wow.
yeah.
And that maintenance for that 5 years of like going running and then having the 3 drinks, there's so many people that probably are doing that right now. And you
Yeah.
think like, I've got it figured out,
Yeah.
but like, are you really living when you're like so like regimented on, okay, now I
Yeah.
have my drinks. And like, I'm wondering, like before you could have your drinks at 6 p.m., like what was that 3, 4, 5 o'clock hour for you? Like,
Well, it was miserable. Like that was my reward for getting through the day without drinking. And then once I got to that point, could have that first cold beer, I was just like, oh God, life is complete again, and I just felt so good. And then I always knew I had them lined up on my nightstand. It sounds depressing, but that was just how I did it. And then I just would finish those and then go to sleep and then wake up feeling, and then during my 5 mile run, all I could think about was the warm 3 glass. It's like a little juice box, with 3 glasses of wine in it. And I just chug that and then go and then work after that. That was the time where I was going into a job actually. So, and that job, I statute of limitations. I don't think it matters now, but like, it's just, um, it's not a job I should have been having any alcohol in my system anyways. And then once I started getting out of hand, I started getting stressed in the morning. And then I caught myself going to the mini mart next to work, buying a 24-ounce can, chugging that on my lunch breaks. So then it just started evolving and getting worse to the point where I stopped functioning and I ended up not getting fired from that job. But I did realize I was getting better at trading stocks and I was able to do it full time. So that's when I was like, oh, okay, I can trade full time. I don't need to, respond to anybody. Nobody's over my shoulder breathing over me and I can do this on my own. That was the worst decision ever for an alcoholic at the time though, because nobody's watching me. I can just sit at the computer like I am now with a double whiskey Coke right next to me at 6
Right.
a.m. if I want to. And
But you
that's when it
can't
really got
get
out
a
of.
whiskey Coke by you right now, right?
Nope, I got a coffee and a water.
Thank you
Thank
for
God.
sharing that story. Man, I can resonate with that so much. Well, when I started teaching yoga out on Sunset Cliffs, I too was working for myself, you know? And so when I was hungover, I had a Rolodex of people I could call, or I'd just go out of the Facebook group. Sorry, I'm not feeling well. You know, it's a
Yeah,
free,
because
I was doing free just donations, but I made pretty good money out there. But I didn't have a boss, I didn't have anyone to answer to.
yeah,
Not be good. I mean, that's why so many people developed huge problems during COVID. COVID was such
yeah,
an interesting
no
time
structure,
that
you
I
know.
feel like, well, I started doing my sobriety coaching during that time, and the people that were social drinkers were like, "I don't have to go anywhere. Like, I'm gonna focus on sobriety," and a lot of people
Yeah,
got sober during that time. And a lot of
yeah,
other people were like, "I don't have to work," or "I'm working from Zoom," and they developed a major problem. And I say,
yeah. A
you
lot
know,
of relapses
like
too.
I didn't have a drinking problem when I was younger. I'm like, well, it's an addictive substance, and if you drink it enough, you might just become dependent on it.
Yeah. Did you ever see yourself like physically dependent where you were waking up with the shakes and stuff and trying to just knock those out to get started with your day? Did that happen very often?
So mine was bender like. So when I was on a bender, yes, for sure. And so somehow I got pretty good at weaning myself off a bender. I would be like, okay, it's day 5. And I would just drink a few beers on that last day so that the next day and then I would take like a sleeping medication and get a really good night's sleep, and then I wouldn't drink that next day.
Like a
But
little self taper.
I didn't really have like months that I was drinking every day for like a full month. It was more
Same.
like a 5-day bender. During that little meth period in San Diego, there might have been more of that, but I don't really remember. But yeah,
Yeah.
definitely have had. I mean, oh, I didn't even share too much about this. Going to 6 a.m. bars was a huge part of my story. And I did that first with some party friends. You know, we're up all night and they're like, let's go to the locker room. I'm like, what is the locker room? They're like, it's this bar that opens at 6 in the morning. So we all go. And I do that a few times with a group of people. Well, then what would happen with my partying, we would all have, I always had after parties at my house. And everyone
Yeah.
else would pass out like normal, but I would still be up. And then I would be like, oh, it's 5 o'clock. Well, the bar opens at 6. So I'd keep myself up
God,
until I
it
could go
reminds
to
me of
the
me.
bar by myself at 6 in the morning. I did
And there's
that.
always a couple old timer regulars there waiting to talk and play
I
some
was one
music.
of the
Yeah.
regulars with the old
Yeah.
timers, and yeah,
Yeah.
they all knew me. I was a regular there, and then I would have someone come rescue me later on in the day. I would pass out at the bar, things like that. And then when I
Do the
moved to San
same
Diego,
thing.
I'm like, "Sweet, I'm gone from my 6 a.m. bar. I'm gonna start a new life." And then one time I'm on a sober streak and I'm going to yoga at 7 in the morning, and I walk past this bar and it's open. There's a 6 a.m. bar 2 blocks from my house.
And there
Next
was something satisfying about drinking at a bar at 6 a.m. I mean, if part of you feels low, but the other part's like, hey, I'm with people. It's kind of
That's what it
lively,
was, is I just always wanted to be with people, and there comes
Same.
back that thing of connection, of,
Yeah.
like, I just wanted to be around people.
Yeah, it's validating kind of having somebody to hang out with, talk with. And I would do the same thing. There was this bar in Seattle area called the Knock Knock. It was like the party bar where like you could get any drug there. You'd party through the night, and then they would stop serving alcohol at 2 a.m. And then people would be doing drugs between 2 and 6. And then they would reopen the bar at 6 a.m. and then stay open till 10 a.m. to keep partying. And it would be an all night thing. But then after that, we'd go to another bar that opens at 10 a.m. and the people off the night shift would be getting there. So we could hang out with them. And it was just like, okay, by Monday, I'm fried.
Wild what we did to ourselves, yeah.
I know. I know.
I don't wanna go back to that at all.
Me either. So, like, let's talk about so after all those years of partying, how did you get up to like 7 years ago, and like what led to doing what you're doing now in sobriety? Like, it seems like you're really helping other people. So, I'd love to hear about it.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Yeah, during I was like just before COVID that I had my last relapse. So January 6th is my sobriety date, and then COVID started happening in that March, you know. And so I really after that last relapse, I was like, I think I'm done. I really feel like I'm done. And so I knew in my heart I wanted to start helping other people. And so I started thinking in my mind, I want to start coaching. And so I actually hired a business coach to start formulating this. I didn't do any recovery coach training or anything at that point. I felt like I had enough wisdom in me to do that. And so I started kind of creating and thinking about what that would look like. And then COVID happened before I launched my coaching program. And I decided to create, actually, was that 2019? There might have been a little bit of time in there. Anyways, around COVID, I started a women's meeting. I did a sober girls book club. I'm like, we're all at home. Let's meet on Zoom. And so it was book club for about 2 or 3 years. So we read all of the sober books and really created a
They're all recovery related books.
Yep, all
Cool.
recovery related, and started building a community, started doing one-on-one coaching, created a group coaching program, which was called Recovery Revival. It was a 3-month group coaching container, which I'm thinking about bringing back. I've done 10 rounds of that, and it was really, really powerful. And I'm still hosting that weekly meeting. It's now a topic meeting. It's called the Sober Sisters meeting, and it's now on, it's on Wednesday nights. It used to be on Tuesdays, so it's on
Is it
Wednesday.
in person or
It's on
Zoom?
Zoom. Yep, it's
In
on
Zoom?
Zoom.
Awesome.
So if anyone listening wants to find me, happy.sober.free is my Instagram. Send me a message and I'll send you the Zoom link. But yeah, the one-on-one coaching, the group coaching, I was doing retreats at that point, and now I'm doing these bigger events, which I'm so excited about because it's really about bringing people together and having fun and doing some of that deep healing. And so this spring, this year, I did the Happy Sober Free Sedona Summit, which was a 3-day event. So it's kind of like retreat meets conference and bringing in all of those aspects that I've been talking about, some connection activities, confidence boosting exercises, and sound healing.
Incorporate yoga into it.
Of course, yeah. And then
Awesome.
yoga, cacao flow is what I've been doing lately, sharing the medicine of ceremonial grade cacao, which is basically raw chocolate, but it opens your heart. And so, yeah, and so I'm a yoga teacher, of course, all of the
How
events.
about the sober dancing? Do you incorporate that in?
Yes, we do
Cool.
have that incorporated in them as
Sounds
well.
like a fun 3 days.
It is a really fun 3 days. And so I'm
Do you get
doing
a lot of individuals, a lot of couples showing up, or is it just a little bit of everybody?
Mainly individuals, not too many couples. I would say maybe a couple couples came to the last couple events that I've done. And I just did last weekend here in Madison, a 1-day event just like that. So that's the Happy Sober Free Madison meetup. So I kind of plan on doing both of these events annually. So the Happy Sober Free Madison meetup in the fall in Madison, and then the other event in the spring, which I'm doing March 13th, 14th, and 15th. I just launched that. So I'm really excited to get everybody
Awesome.
together. But it's a lot of individuals. And a big concern that people have is I don't know anybody. Like we already have social anxiety. That's why we drink, right? And so it can be uncomfortable coming to something like this. But I'm telling you, the community that I've cultivated, and I'll give myself a pat on the back, they are loving and open and kind and fun. If you go to my social media, you'll see the space that I create and the amazing people that show up for themselves and for one another.
It
Yeah, we
isn't.
have a lot of fun. Like a huge part of what my mission is to show people that we can still have fun without drugs and alcohol. And there's
Yeah.
something that gets to happen along the way as well. So,
Yeah, that's something that was really hard for me to believe when I first got sober. When I first started going to meetings and I saw people like laughing and stuff during meetings and hugging and shaking hands. And I'm just like, this is bullshit. Like, there's no way I'm going to be happy about this. I'm walking in still shaky and like my heart's thudding and I know I'm not going to talk. And now it's like, I'm sharing meetings and stuff, and all the people I hang out with are sober. I've been doing yoga with a couple people from AA every Monday, and just all these like going on hikes and stuff, and just doing all these things that I never thought I would enjoy. But now it's like I enjoy the simplest of things sober now. Like I look forward to going to the store. I mean,
Chills, it is the simple things. Like you find joy in the simple things that I
yeah,
was not doing that before. And I love hiking. Nature medicine is like the best. I've really fallen in love with that. That's like my
same.
church out there. So I
You're
love that
like
you're
go.
doing yoga and that you're laughing and sharing meetings. And, I remember, people telling me that you're going to have fun. And I was like, no way, this sucks, and then eventually you're like, okay, I thought all sober people were dorky. I didn't want any sober friends, and look at me now. I'm like
Yeah.
sober out loud, queen, cultivating this community. I never thought
Yep.
this would be my life, but I wouldn't have it any other way. So I'm really happy that
Awesome.
you're finding your way
Thank
as
you.
well, and doing the podcast to share about it. And that's what's, like I mentioned earlier, it's so cool that people are sober out loud. The AA community, you know, um, what do they say? What's the promotion or what thing?
On the gosh, I can't remember. It's like the AA promotion. I'm having a mind blank.
It's attraction rather than promotion.
Oh yeah, yeah. So like I was
Anonymity.
getting
So it was a lot more hush hush back in the day.
it
And I
was and like
over the last 5 years, people are like being sober out loud and it's not so
yeah,
shameful anymore.
I love that. It's like a huge community. Everybody's like sober's becoming popular and fun now, and like people are talking about it. There's clothing brands coming out, with like Sober Strong Apparel, who I sponsors me actually. It's like all this really cool stuff, and like everywhere you look on social media, which I stayed away from social media before this podcast, but I didn't realize like how many amazing people across the world I can meet just on here through this podcast, through social media that are sober and they're taking it seriously and like they actually are enthusiastic about it. They're not ashamed of it. They're not like, oh yeah, I'm boring, I'm sober. They're like, hell no, I'm sober. I want other people to be sober. So it's like popular.
It
Love
is.
it.
We're the cool
But
kids.
it is. I love it.
It just looks
It's
different now.
so yeah, that's why I was excited to interview because I just kind of looked at your page and it's Happy Sober Free. It's an amazing title right off the bat. And then I see all the positivity down your page and I'm like, gotta talk to her. And but yeah, so like if you can give me an example, like if I were to say I use a sober coach, how would you work with every individual? Like, is there a step-by-step program? Like, how does that go?
Yeah, I appreciate you asking that question. And so I typically work with women. I have worked with men. So if there's a guy on here that's like, I really want to work with you, there's a chance we could make that happen. I just have to, I do believe in women sticking with women and men sticking with men for a bunch of
Yeah,
different reasons.
of course.
Um, so the way that I'm doing coaching right now, and that I've done it most of, other than when I was doing the group coaching program, it is really a client by client basis, but I call it a mentorship. So I'm in communication with most of the women that I guide every single day. And so we're hooked up on WhatsApp, which means we voice memo and send text messages back and forth. And so there's some certain things that I do ask my clients to do daily. 20 minutes of movement, write down 3 things that you're grateful for, try to drink more water than you're drinking right now, find connection and community, which I encourage them to come to our Wednesday night Zoom meeting. So those are like some of the foundational pieces. And then I have some different worksheets that are kind of like visioning for your future that you kind of rate different areas of your life. Because I always say when we get sober, there's so much more that goes into it than just putting down the drink. And so
Way more. You
we
have to
didn't
change your
focus
whole
on
lifestyle.
exactly. It is. I help them embody an alcohol-free lifestyle. So like how do we get to have fun? Who are the places or if who and where are the places that we need to avoid? What are some things that you want for yourself in the future? And so we just kind of navigate that. And also I gift all of my clients this resource that I created. It's called the Recovery Rolodex. So it's 21 bite-sized videos to support you on your sober journey. And they're really short, just like 3 to 7 minutes. I know that my attention span is short, so they're
Me
super
too.
bite-sized, but I cover things like the HALT method that we spoke about, how to have fun in sobriety, navigating social gatherings without drinking, things like that. So, yeah, there's definitely some process to it, but it's also meeting the client with where they're at. Right now I have someone that's working through a divorce, so I'm supporting them through that because I have wisdom with that. I went through a divorce.
Yeah.
I have I don't regret any of my past because I do believe that it's given me the wisdom to support other people on their journey. So all of my relapses have allowed me to be super compassionate for
It's all
people.
a part of the recovery, I think.
Exactly. And even my divorce and, losing my brother, losing my dad and the deep grief that happens. And you don't have to drink over that stuff. Um,
Exactly. I mean, I've
yeah.
been talking with other people about like kind of asking the question kind of like, do we regret any of the stuff that's happened in our lives? Because where we're at now, none of it would have, none of this would have been possible if it wasn't for everything that took place, everything from grief to divorce to, all these obstacles we had to face. But do we like, would we go back and change it or are we just happy that we are where we are now? That's what I'm always talking to with my guests and stuff. It's like, I think I had a pretty rough past, but like I would never choose anything different than what I have today.
Yep,
So
exactly. And that's
yeah,
contentment right there. And contentment is something that comes along with sobriety. There's so many gifts of sobriety, and it is such a journey. Like each year, especially if you're doing the work, more is revealed and you continue to heal and peel back layers. And I love it. I'm
Exactly.
grateful.
And do you feel like your working as a coach and stuff is just a huge part of your own recovery? It helps you help them, helping them helps
Absolutely.
you.
I was talking to my mom about this the other day, and she's so proud of me. When it was that
Yeah.
meth period in San Diego, she really had lost most hope and figured that I would probably die from this. And so she's very proud of me. And she's just like, and what's the best part is you're sober through this. And I was like, you know what? Like, I really say that I don't have the desire to drink anymore, but maybe there's been a few moments where, because I have relapse dreams still sometimes, and they're of
Same.
telling my community that I slipped up, or like, "Oh, I slipped up. Do I tell everybody about that?" And so I really
Yeah.
think being a leader in sobriety and coaching others and having the beautiful events that I have in the Wednesday night meeting, 100%. It's my purpose of passion. And that is what I think is so important. I feel like a lot of us that are struggling with that slip up loop, we have some purpose or passion that we haven't tapped into. And it's this extra energy. So when I mentioned that, I'm kind of going on a tangent here, but when I mentioned that
No, love it.
2 week cycle, I would be sober for 2 weeks and then relapse. When I would get to the 2 weeks, I would start to feel so good because I wasn't hungover anymore and I would have too much energy. I didn't know what to do with my energy. I'd be like, I just got to get drunk to like get normal again. But it was
Yeah.
because I had all of this stuff that wanted to come out. And now I have places to put my energy because I'm an entrepreneur. I think addicts and alcoholics make great entrepreneurs, by the way.
We do.
Because
Yes.
now I have extra places to put this energy, and it's
Yeah.
fulfilling, you know?
Yeah, I feel like a lot of us have, not saying we all have ADHD, but we like have the idea of like fixating on certain things when we get sober as well, because I used to just fixate on how I was getting my next drink, how I was going to hide it, what lie I was going to tell, unfortunately, like all these different bad fixations. And now it's like, okay, well, I started this podcast. I thought it was just going to be like a little hobby just to do in my free time for fun. But then all of a sudden I'm like, I actually like this. This is becoming, I'm passionate about this. I'm talking to people in recovery every day. So just became kind of something that's my everyday life now.
I love that. And it doesn't have to be like a job or, something big like starting a coaching program or a
Yeah.
podcast. It could be a
Yeah.
hobby or something. But
Yeah.
I'm so glad that you're finding so much fulfillment in that. And yeah,
But you're right. The entrepreneur attitude that I think a lot of us people in recovery have, it's pretty amazing because like it gives us the motivation to be out there and help others, which a lot of us could just quit drinking and, call that enough and just move on with our lives. But I think we just get so wrapped up in our recovery in a good way that we want to share it with others. So,
yep, absolutely.
and yeah, like starting this podcast, kind of like you were mentioning earlier, like a lot of, I would say, old timers in AA, I thought it was going to be kind of frowned upon going on here and being more public about things. I mean, I don't like preach AA to anybody on my guests or whatever, but do you feel like you bring any of like the stuff you learned in AA, even though you're not active in that anymore? Do you ever bring some of those tools into what you do?
I feel like I loved the slogans in AA. I never went all the way through the steps, to be honest. I didn't
Me
want
either. Yeah.
anyone telling me what to do. So having a sponsor didn't work very well for me. And my mom would always
I don't
say,
even use a sponsor.
take what you like and leave the rest. And so my mom does AA with me, basically. She's like, it's kind of an AA thing. I'm like, I'm open to it. I love progress, not perfection. Play the tape forward. I think I learned in AA. And so, yeah, there's a lot of really, really great things that built a foundation for me for sure. And the beautiful thing about it is it's free and it's everywhere. You know what I mean? So that's what's amazing about the program. And it helps a lot of people. I think I don't know if I've said this out loud on a podcast before, but I think that it works really well. Well, I don't know if you can relate to this for people that, do you feel like you live in the rules and the boxes? I don't know. For the rebel spirits, I feel
Yeah.
I'm like
It's
too wild for that program. I don't know.
I am too wild for the program to say. I am not your typical AA chair member, and everybody who goes and when I'm chairing, I kind of sometimes realize I attract, some different people to the meetings, and some people I don't think come to my meetings that I chair at intentionally. I kind of take it personally, but it's like, okay, I'm a different vibe. So But yeah, I think we're rule breakers over here. So,
Right, exactly, and
and
just
and
owning it, and it doesn't have to be perfect, you know what I mean? Like, they will tell you, "You need to have a sponsor, you need to do this," and the truth of the matter is you don't. And actually, I
yeah,
feel really powerful saying that out loud because that was such a gift that my mom gave to me
yeah,
because that's what they tell you, but you can still go
yeah,
to meetings. If you like
yeah,
that community and you like those meetings and you don't wanna do the steps, it's okay. I'm giving you the
exactly.
permission slip.
And they tell you like you can be selfish in your recovery, and part of me being selfish in my recovery is doing it whatever's working for me. And if that's not talking to my sponsor, who my sponsor and I, we get along, but he understands. I haven't called him in the 13 months I've been sober. So I mean, but we still run into each other, give each other a hug, but he understands that whatever I'm doing is working for me and he's not pressuring me. But there are other people that criticize that idea who are like, you don't talk to your sponsor, so you shouldn't, be chairing meetings. And I'm just like, well, that's your opinion, but I care about the program. I care about the people in the room, and that's what matters.
Yes! Yes! Powder for the
Yeah.
people's neck!
Exactly. But yeah, no, I've a couple other questions. When do you hit your 8-year mark?
So 7 years. So
Oh, 7 years.
they don't like that in AA either when you plan ahead. So I'll be 7 years on January 6th.
Awesome.
And I know
Coming
I will
up.
make it to January 6th without having a drink. I'm confident in that. So
That's
yeah.
awesome. I think you're true inspiration, honestly. Like you seems like your lifestyle growing up and partying and stuff was very similar to mine, like the benders, the binges and all that. And then doing what you're doing now is really incredible. What advice would you give to anybody who's sober curious right now or new to recovery? Any advice you'd like to give?
Yeah, sober curious, new to recovery is you really do need to stack up some time to receive the benefits of sobriety. So if you just do 2 weeks or a month and don't change anything in your life, and you just like all your friends are going to the bar, but you're like, I'm just gonna stay home and watch Netflix for this 30 days, and then you're like, sobriety isn't that great. Like that's not really giving it a full shot. So that would be one recommendation. And just trying it is like, some people are like, well, or I don't drink that much. I just have a couple drinks a night. Your baseline of feeling good is a little bit lower than it probably would be if you abstained for. So I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with taking 30 days off. Like if you've never done that before, start there. And then also if you slip up, don't think this is too hard. I can't get it. Keep trying. And then, the last thing that I wanted was sober friends and community. But if you can find that, it is a game changer. I actually just started a meetup.com group. Are you familiar with meetup.com?
I've heard of it. I've never been to it, but I have heard of it though. It's where you can like find people with the same interests. Like if I wanted to find a group of people that play golf, there would be like I could find that group or whatever. Is it kind of like that?
Yep. So it's a free
Okay.
website. I think it's worldwide. I would always help my clients, like if they live in Denver, go on meetup.com and find sober events. So now that I'm back in Madison, I'm like, I'm going to start a meetup group. And so mine's a happy sober free. So you can go on there and you can search
Awesome.
sober, you can search hiking, you can search whatever, and you can find groups of sober people that aren't necessarily in recovery. So that's what I did with yoga. So yeah, maybe some of those people do drink at night, but the activity that we're doing is sober and it's a safe space to meet health-minded people. But
That's
going
cool.
on meetup.com and looking for sober events in your area is a really, really great way to meet people. So don't try to
Awesome.
do it alone is one of my recommendations. So
That's
find
the
an
best
online
advice.
meeting, find a meetup group, go to a just check it out and be honest with yourself because you said earlier I was lying to myself. I was lying to myself and I was too for a long time, like thinking that it was still fun when it got to a point where it really wasn't.
Exactly. If you can't be honest with yourself, you can't be honest with the rest of the world, and that was my biggest reward in the last 13 months was finally just being honest and not having to cover anything up and taking the mask off and just being me, comfortable in my own skin for the first time ever.
Woo! That took years of sobriety to start. I mean, I am just now starting to feel comfortable in my own
Well,
skin.
I hope I get more comfortable, but I'm just saying, like, when I was just drinking for 17 straight years, I really didn't get to know myself very well. So I'd say, like, once I hit around the 9-month mark, I all of a sudden just kind of broke out of this shell finally and took the guard down. And I was just like, I want to start a podcast.
Yeah, you're starting a podcast, you're cheering meetings, you're doing better than I was at 9 months.
No, I appreciate it, but yeah, no, I'm impressed by all the things you're doing right now. You are busy.
I am busy, but it's a good thing. So yeah.
So since you're busy, I won't keep you on too much longer. Is there like a quote that you live by? I'm always curious, like a
My
nice quote
God.
that stands out. If not, it's all
they
good. You've
actually
said a
call
lot
me-
of great things.
They call me the quote queen. And so I have just a bunch of quotes that I love.
Yeah, that's
Let's
the
see
right
if I can
person.
recite
Sweet.
this one. It's a Swami. We aren't going to change the whole world, but we can change ourselves and feel free as birds. We can be serene even in the midst of calamities, and by our serenity, make others more tranquil. If we smile at someone, he or she will smile back, and a smile costs nothing. We should plague everyone with joy. If we are to die in a minute, why not die happily laughing? And that's a little bit more of a yoga quote, but really just trying to find that joy and share it with others. And, you know, in the crazy world of politics and everything that's going on, I am just trying to be the light. I am not getting into politics, and I am helping people get sober. And that is my mission. And I do that through wellness and finding joy and making people feel like they're a part of something.
I love that. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on, Ryan. This was amazing. And it was nice getting to know you, and congratulations on your 13 months too.
Thank you.
Rock Bottom with Ryan. No bullshit, just recovery.